my time. For everybody else in different time zones, I appreciate you being on here. Um, Today, we've been going through the last couple of weeks F&I products, and very, very important to understand all your programs, understand all your products, because when you can educate a customer, obviously that's the most important way or the best way that we feel you can if you're going to sell the programs. And educate, sell by education. So, but this week I'm taking a little flip. We've got a couple more products I want to walk through, and we're going to do that in the next couple of weeks. But today I've come to the realization with some of the questions I've asked or been asked over the last week or two that this might be a good refresher, a great training for the rest of your dealership as well. And it's a couple of calculations that you need to know when you're in F&I. And we really are always, our goal with F&I is to maximize it. That's what we're looking at. That's why we always talk about the programs, and just not, you get those dealers that are so tunnel vision when it comes to VSC, 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 VSC. Oh, and then we offer this other stuff. We really want to focus on the other stuff because that's going to be the difference between a good finance manager and a great one, and a good finance program and a great one. So some of the calculations that go into these programs is what I'm going to cover today. So this might be a little bit of a refresher course, but that's okay, because I hope it puts this back on your radar, and maybe you start using some of these, because there's a way you can use calculations to close programs. And I'll tell you what, it's very effective when it comes to that, because that's what's going to help you separate you from good to great. And if you see me talking with my hands a lot, I don't know, it's a habit. I'm 45, I ain't gonna change now. So let's just move it along. So get out your scratch paper. Unless you're driving, do not get out scratch paper. Okay. Appreciate you being on call, mate. All right, here we go. So what we're covering today, we're going to cover maximizing a bank approval. We're going to go over on how to calculate a cancellation. And then we're going to kind of segue from how to calculate a cancellation into how to use that cancellation method for closing. And it's a good one, I promise you. And I put it at the end because I want everybody to stay to the end. It's a really good program. All right, so here we go. Maximizing a bank approval. First and foremost, as an F&I manager or as a salesperson, you need to know your approval programs. And there's going to be two types of customers. One, the customer where you have that credit app and they said, go ahead, send me across to the bank, get me approved, and we have an actual approval in hand. Or you're going to have the customer who says, you know what, I got a good credit score. You're going to have to believe me. I'm not filling out the app, but I do want to see some numbers and put some stuff together for me. That customer is what you're going to want to make sure you know your bank approval. What is your bank going to give you on this type of customer, on this type of unit? And we could spend a 2 to 3 hour training easily on just this one subject, on how to figure out all the percentages. So it's a very, very big subject. So for me, big training tip, make sure you study your rate sheets and know them front to back, and know what people go to what banks for the best approval. Because our goal, again, and you're going to hear me, I'm a broken record today when it comes to maximizing a bank approval. That is huge. Okay. So lender approval amount, that's the max amount we get on the front and the back end for an approval. And what we're talking about here is, I want everybody to get out of their mind to where if a bank's going to approve you up to 15 grand, but you're only selling it for 10, that 5 grand doesn't magically go away. That's not, oh, I don't need it, I'm only trying to get 10. No. If the bank's going to give you 15 grand, we want to use all 15 grand. Now, I'm not saying take the customer for a ride, you know, and just stack on everything you can and just try and put the customer in the worst position ever. No. But we want to make sure that we're giving the customer the opportunity not only to, maximize the back end. We want to make sure we have room on the approval for F&I products, because that's what protects the customer the most. And then on top of that, we want to make sure that if there is approval left, so if we've got that customer that we've gotten approved, maybe they want some accessories, maybe they want some parts. That's how you get the other departments to love F&I. If you as an F&I manager are going back to your parts and service department with a customer 2 or 3 times a week and saying, man, we got approved for another couple of grand and they need to put on some accessories. They need to put on a stereo. They're going to put in lights. They're going to put in, you know, a different suspension. There's way too many parts to sit here and name. But if you're going back to your parts department, then your parts department, your service department are going to start supporting you. And that's how everybody in the dealership starts supporting each other. So it's got to start somewhere. So let's make sure we start it on our end. Okay. All right. So understanding our rate sheet, we're going to do a pretty quick example, hence the scratch paper. So we have a rate sheet that says 140% MSRP. Now you're going to have two types of lenders. One, 140% MSRP is the max that they're lending. That's it. Don't ask for $1 more. That's what we're doing. That's just the out the door type of dealer. Then you have 140% plus plus. The plus plus dealers are our friends because they'll allow you to do 140% plus any back end programs. But again, you need to understand what type of lender you're dealing with. So that's going to take some homework before the customer even shows up. But we'll get after that. For this example, if you have a dealer or you have a bank that approves you for 140% MSRP and MSRP is 12 grand, how much can we finance? Now, I would have loved to have put in some Jeopardy music right here. I am not technologically advanced. I went through about 20 minutes of trying to add music to one point, failed horribly. So this is my explanation of why we didn't have that cool music. But so at 140% of MSRP on 12 grand, here is the answer. So that's $16,800. So in our little example here, we have $16,800 to work with. So we want to figure out as a finance manager, what's the max that we can get out of this deal? Well, we're selling the car or the bike or the side by side, whatever it is, for 12 grand. Well, you also have to include taxes and fees. Don't forget those because banks always include those. So let's just say for easy numbers sake, it's $800. So that's 12.8 that we have to finance in. So that leaves us $4,000. The difference, and again, that we've talked about is maximizing that. So that 4 grand, we need to make sure that that ends up as back end, accessories, whatever it might be. Now, each dealership is different, and I get that. Everybody's got their different processes of when the finance manager gets involved. For us, for me, I recommend getting involved with the customer interview, letting the customer know that we're going to get them approved. Once we have this approved, you know what? You ended up with 4 grand of extra. I've got some different ways we can protect you. Bring them in the finance office, go through all your finance programs, get as much as you can, protecting there with VSC, GAP, all those things. If there's extra, before you just kick them out and sign a contract and be done with it, and I'm good, like I said, you know what? Your approval was for 16.8. We've got about $1,000 left. Is there any accessories that you'd wanted to add that maybe we could add to your financing and keep it nice and simple? By doing that, you're going to gain 2 things. One, your customers are going to love you because it's that your CSI is going to go up. Man, I was able to put on that accessory I wanted. They got me all done. This is awesome. Didn't have to come back or pay out of pocket. Secondly, your parts and your sales department are going to be excited because you're getting the customer more involved and you're getting the customer involved in different areas of the store. It's a win-win. So CSI good, everything else is good. So make sure you understand these rate sheets. Make sure that we understand what maximizing a deal is, because I'll tell you what, you start doing this kind of stuff, you're really going to see everybody in the dealership start liking it. You're going to have parts managers buying you lunch. Okay. So if you want some Chick-fil-A, let me tell you, this is the way to do it. Okay, so like I said, understand our rate sheet, understand the F&I programs, accessory services, and I'm going to throw in this slide I wanted to make sure I mention with this, understand how your lenders look at your programs as well. We've had a couple of discussions with how a program is looked at from one bank to another. In fact, I had 2 banks. I won't mention their names, but they had different ideas on how a program should fit, whether it was something that should be, because it's non-cancelable, is it really a back-end product, or do they treat it like an accessory where it's a hard ad? So understand what your lenders look at and what programs they feel are going to go here or here and how it works with your approval. So all of it boils down to one thing: understand your rate sheet. Okay. So moving on, calculating a cancellation. Had a couple questions this week on how to calculate a cancellation. Now, cancellation is a four-letter word with a lot more letters in the F&I business. I get that. But there is a way, and I'm going to show you how to use this way of calculating a cancellation to use that as a selling tool. So I've got a couple things here, so stick with me here. Here we go. So what we need to know when we're going to calculate a cancellation for any kind of F&I product, we need to know a couple things. One, original contract price in the original term. And sometimes some programs are going to require the miles because it's a miles or term program. So we'll get into that. Are there any cancellation fees? Because I guarantee you there's going to be some fees for canceling it. And the last question, which is kind of silly, but this is what came up and prompted me to do this. Is it cancelable? Do we know all of our programs and if they're cancelable or not? And that's something that we definitely want to have in the back of our mind, whether we're selling the program, selling the products, whatever it might be. You want to know if this is a cancelable product or not. So make sure that you have all this information on all of it. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. All of this is on the contract. I promise you, because I had to find it myself. Okay, here we go. Canceling example. So original price, let's just go off of we're just going to say it's a gap policy for 3,600. Some finance manager got super strong. Original term, 36 months. Okay, so a short-term gap policy. So the way to figure out a cancellation is you just take that $3,600 and divide it by the months. 36 months, $100 a month. Josh loves easy math. So it doesn't always work out this way. In the real world, there's different numbers that are going to be, pennies and cents. But you know what? I love a smooth little equation. So take that $100 a month and you times it by how many months they haven't used, and you need to round down. It's easier to have a couple bucks coming back to you than it is to overfigure and have to call the customer and say, whoops, I figured too much, my fault. So always round down. So if they've used 36 and a half months, or if they have 36 and a half months left, round down to 36. That's what we'll use. So make sure that you're doing that. Very simple to just calculate this. Now you're wondering, how do I use this cancellation as a way to sell? Okay. Weird. I have a slide for that. So we can take this money, depends on your dealership, and make sure that you're going through with your office manager and your sales managers on how this would go down. But some dealers, if the product was sold at that dealer and you're canceling it, some dealers will allow you to put it on your new contract as cash down. Well, as finance managers, the number one thing we want to hear is, I have cash down. Every approval gets easier. Everything gets done faster when you have cash down. You can ask for a lot more. So if we can put it on the contract as cash down, that's great. And obviously every finance manager is probably thinking, well, if they bought it once, they're probably going to buy it again. So it's kind of a win-win there. Now I know cancellations, but going against us is a negative, but wouldn't you want to at least capture that to try and break even, if not go a little bit higher? So let's always keep that in the back of the mind. Now, the other thing that I have, and I mentioned earlier, if you got on early, Mike and I were talking about where I'm from. Oh man, I'm going to show my age here, but I know Starbucks is everywhere now. But when I was growing up in the great state of Oregon, Starbucks was huge because it came down from Seattle with some other things, which is why I moved. But besides the point, but Starbucks was big. So I always use my Starbucks example. You can throw in anything you want here. And how that works is using that same calculation. So if we had a product that was 36 months on the term and we're charging $3,600, that's $100 a month. That sounds like a lot to a customer. But if we use this calculation a different way and break it down on a per day basis, well, gosh, this program's only cost you $5 a day. That's less than a drink at Starbucks. You have to understand the mindset of a customer. As finance managers, our brains tend to love math. I would hope so, because you're going to deal with math a lot if you're in the F&I office. But you want to make sure you break it down for that, because a lot of customers don't think of it that way. And I'm going to use a real world example I had. I had a customer who came in my office and had a Pizza Hut t-shirt on. So I assume they like Pizza Hut. Just went out on a limb. If you're going to wear the t-shirt, right? Or you lost a bet, one of the two. And I mentioned that. It's like, man, it's less than the cost of a pizza a month. It was like $22 a month. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I could probably give up one and still have, have coverage. Bam, instantly sold. So a great way to use that calculation is to divide whatever it is and get it to a per day, a per month payment, and then relate it to your customer. But like we've done in our training a couple of weeks ago, when we talked about the customer interview and you get to know your customer, adapt this to your customer. Unbelievably how well it will be. Now, you got to get creative. If you talk nothing but their kids going to baseball, they're already expending money at baseball. So it's hard to say, like, well, give up one baseball game for your kids and you can pay for this. Not the route you probably want to go, but you can use that in a playful, tongue-in-cheek way of saying, maybe one game they don't, instead of getting candy bars after the game, they get orange slices. Save yourself $20, that pays for this. There you go. Just being creative and tailoring that back to the customer, it makes all the difference. And every training, I'm going to go back to that, because I'll tell you what, if there's anything that I can get across to F&I managers, salespeople, whatever it might be, customers just want to feel important. And this is just another way of doing that. And it's a nerd way because I'm using math. So again, another way that we can present programs, just something different that maybe will help a customer see that if you've got that customer who's spent 30 minutes with you going over the payment, the interest rate, this, they might be math driven. If they're math driven, this is the way to sell them for sure, because then they'll see, gosh, it's only $4 or $5 a month. Some programs, it's less than $1 a day. I mean, 60 cents a day for some programs, depending upon what you're selling it for. So breaking it down that way, and they see it as a simple, small number, it's going to make all the difference for you. So definitely recommend that. Now, being that this is a math lesson, I did not want to make it more than 20 minutes, because I'll tell you what, that would have been about my attention span if I was in a math class right now. God bless kids in school. I don't know how they do it now, because I don't know if I'd be able to focus that long. So we want to keep these nice and sweet. And obviously, second to last day of the month, or last day of the month, I want to make sure I get you back on the sales floor, close out a month strong. But no training is incomplete complete if you don't have homework. So your homework this week is to find out which one of your programs is cancelable or not. And if there are, what fees are there? And I can promise you this, like I said, hint, it's on every contract. So go through your contracts, know what programs are cancelable and what not, and know what the fee is. There will be a couple fees on there, I promise you. So if anybody has any questions, I would love to take those. Thank you for, my math lesson today. Hopefully got some good use out of scratch paper.